Welcome to Glazed Over, a podcast for contemporary ceramic studios. We're your host, Jessica Cowan.
And Amy Williams. You're invited to join us in creative conversation about life in the arts as entertainment space.
Hey, Amy.
Hey, Jess.
How's it going?
It's going so good. I'm feeling so good after we've wrapped up this episode on negative reviews with Maddie Riegel.
Yeah, Maddie was so informative about all things social media, reviews specifically, and not just negative reviews. She gave us a lot of good insight about how to respond to the good and the bad. She's got a couple of methods, the heat method and the learn method that we'll learn about. What else did she give us, Amy? It was all good stuff.
God. We talked about using AI in this space. We talked about when to bring legal in to handle kind of the big bad reviews. But yeah, Maddie is such a wealth of information. I say in the beginning of the episode that I spend a lot of time on Chatter just reading her very thoughtful responses when people put a call out looking for, please help me with this negative review. So I thought, she's perfect guest for the podcast, and I'm happy we got her.
Yeah, she was the number one pick for sure. So without further ado, let's jump in.
Feel like a juggler at your ceramic studio? Between classes, bookings, and admin tasks, those pins keep flying. Let Occasion help you put down the act and get back to creating. Visit occasion.act to discover your peace of mind.
Hi, everyone. Bisque Imports is proud to sponsor the CCSA's new podcast series. Why? Because we love new and innovative things. Check out our latest on-trend designs in the new items section, as well as in our digital version of the quarterly booklet on our website. Enjoy the podcast.
As a small business owner, saving money is the key to running a successful studio. When you join the Contemporary Ceramic Studio Association, you unlock exclusive discounts with industry suppliers, saving you money on everything from bisque to glazes and clay tools. These discounts easily cover the cost of your membership and then some. Don't miss out on savings that can help boost your bottom line and keep your shelves stocked with high-quality supplies. Learn more about our membership discounts at ccsaonline.com.
How's business been for you?
It's been really good. We are having a really good beginning of our year. We just moved to a bigger location at one of our studios, and it's great.
Nice.
So, yeah.
And you're in business with your mom, is that right?
Yeah, so my mom started it in 1999. I was 13, so y'all can do the math on that. But so yeah, we opened in 99. I like to tease and say that I've officially been working for Glaze Expression since 98. But yeah, it's been great being part of a family business. All of my sisters have been a part of it and are still somewhat a part of it. And I've been here full time now since 2012.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love that for y'all.
Yeah. I just hired my mom as my mom is now my bookkeeper. Do you have any advice for me to not lose my mind?
It's a struggle sometimes. But we have kind of like our set roles, and like she's responsible for this and I'm responsible for that. So we just kind of stay in our own lane most of the time.
Yeah, that must be nice. My mom is in everybody's lanes, but
yeah, there's that sometimes, and you can't get away from that. So
do you guys do just pottery painting, or is there any other?
So we do pottery painting, and then we do candle making, and then we're trying to launch something new, and I don't know if I'm ready to share just yet.
Sure.
Ooh,
yeah,
fun.
maybe off camera you can.
Yeah, off the
There you
record.
go.
We'll get a teaser. Yeah.
Yes.
Nice. Well, do you do anything else, Jessica? Also,
well, we do
never
mosaics.
called you Jessica before. That was weird.
Yeah, that was a weird. Yeah, I'm not in trouble, am I?
No.
Yeah, no, I mean, we do the walk-in PYOP, and then we do mosaic making, stoneware, and we have stamp carving, which is a really easy make and take kind of deal, which I've in a tourist area has helped me a lot, but we're not here for that right now.
That's really interesting. I've toyed around with that like on my own solo.
Yeah, like
before.
lino cut.
It's really low investment, and like all you need is a box, and you can transfer the images with acetone. So if you buy silk screens, you can pretty much like use those same images to be able to transfer them over if you have like a copy of the image that you want to do. So,
Oh,
there's some thoughts.
interesting.
We should all talk about that at another
Yeah.
time.
No, I
Yeah.
like that. Nice. So, Maddie, we've got you on today to talk about social media reviews and the importance of them. It's a love-hate relationship, right? But
Yes.
before we kind of dive into that, you gave us a little intro about, how long you've been in business and stuff. Will you give us the official, this is who I am, this is the
Elevator
studio, this
pitch
is
for
where I
you.
am. Yeah, tell us exactly who you
Yeah.
are.
Yeah, my elevator speech, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my name is Maddie Riegel. I am co-owner of Glaze Expressions in the Des Moines metro area. We opened in 1999 with one location. We now have two, and I'm super excited to be part of this podcast and the CCSA.
Yeah, we are too. This is something, anytime I'm scrolling on Chatter and so I see like a couple keywords and I'm like, oh, let me get to the comments because I know Maddie is in here providing excellent feedback on how to deal with, a customer
Right.
complaint or like even you ventured into issues with staff. Like you seem to
Mhm.
really be very good at this. How'd you get so good at it?
I'm a fourth generation entrepreneur, so like literally my upbringing is like been in a business of some kind. Um, and you just you learn how to handle certain situations. And I was lucky enough to kind of be brought up with it. And even with that being said, it's still hard and awkward sometimes. So it's definitely, I think, something that everyone struggles with. Um, but there are kind of little tips and tricks that make it easier. And obviously, the more you do it, the easier it becomes.
Yeah, absolutely. Jess, where are you with feedback? So I'm lucky enough, I'm not in a traditional studio. I don't have to do this very often, and it does really
Yeah.
scare me. Um,
Uh-huh.
Jess, how do you feel about it?
Oh, well, I will say I definitely, every time I get you got a new review notification, 9 out of 10 of
Mhm.
them are going to be great, but my heart is
Mhm.
still like, please don't let this be a one
Right.
bad review. And I think that part gives me a little bit of anxiety that you can't exactly get away from as a business
Mhm.
owner, where like, you're always worried about that anyway. And so then when it
Right.
actually comes up and you have to address it and you're like, great, this is my nightmare. And then here it is right in front of me. But you do have to address it, and like Manny said, the more that you do it, the easier it becomes. And these hard conversations are also part of being a business owner. I do wish we
Mhm.
talked more about the fun ones, and like how we connect with the people who did leave us those good reviews. And
Mhm.
not to take away from Maddie, but even this morning, my team and I were talking too about our personal how we as consumers operate, and like we're not that likely to leave good reviews at places that we go.
Mhm.
We're not
Mhm.
really likely to leave bad reviews either unless we had a terrible experience. So
Right.
it's hard to kind of balance, man, we get a one bad review and you have to really struggle to get good reviews, and why is that? And
Mhm.
it's a lot of back and forth in your head.
Right.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And Maddie, do you promote like in studio, hey, leave us a review? Is that part of the jargon?
It's really not. I was gonna say it's definitely something we could be better at. Occasionally, like my staff takes tips, but I do not. And so usually if I'm being tipped, I will say like, hey, the best tip you can give me is to leave a good review. Um, but yeah, we most of ours is just kind of organic when people are happy or I guess not happy occasionally, they go on and leave a review. So
And where are these reviews happening? So we've got Google reviews, we've got Facebook. Are there any more that I'm missing?
I was gonna say we have a Yelp. Uh, Luckily, it's not super active. I get nervous anytime I have to like go in and change my hours on there or something. That Yelp will start, but
Yeah.
um, those are kind of like our top ones. I keep an eye on everything. We like even our Indeed. We had a disgruntled employee leave us a
Mm.
review. Um, so, I mean, that was one that I wasn't expecting. And so, but luckily I caught it pretty quickly. But yeah, mostly Facebook and Google are our tops.
Yeah. And so I know when I am visiting a new place, I am looking
Mhm.
at the Google reviews. So they are
Mhm.
really important.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I tend to do like most recent when I do the filter, right? You can see because it
Yep.
wants to serve you the really good ones and really bad ones first. So I like to look at the most recent.
Mhm.
And there is a type of person that reviews, right? Like
Mhm.
you're right when you say it's hard to get these just like neutral reviews. It's
Mhm.
mostly they're very bad. So,
Right.
yeah, I like the idea of in studio saying, "Hey, if you had a great time, like please leave us a positive review." And I
Mhm.
think Google would probably be the best place to do that. Is that
Yeah.
right? Yeah, because of like the SEO and things like that.
Right. I was gonna say it's gonna pick up on every other review site. So
Mm.
Google's definitely probably the one that I would put emphasis on. I've seen a couple of local businesses recently have like little printouts saying, here's a QR code. If you had a great time, we'd love to hear about it. If we could have done better, talk to us about it. So
Yeah.
I thought that
Yeah.
was kind of an interesting approach.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
we have the
almost
QR codes at my store, and those have
Yeah.
been really helpful. And our other part of that is, if we can be better, join our advisory council, and we'll talk to you
Mm.
every month about what it could be for a year of, what could be better. And that's been really helpful. And I do want to just add on the topic of reviews.
a bit about
If you're trying to get them, if you have like a text program and you can add that, if
Mhm.
you're doing pickup text, that's the only way that I feel like we get the most organic reviews, is those ones at the pickup text that say, leave us a review if you had a good time, because it's after they've already had the experience, they come back, they pick
Mhm.
up their piece, and then that's when I really want the review anyway. Is
Right.
after it's all kind of said and done and they have the full thing in their hand.
you brought up the advisory board. I'd love to hear a little bit about that if you don't mind sharing with us.
Oh, yeah. Our advisory board is just a collection of customers, not all of whom had a bad experience. They're ones who have chosen to be on it. And we call them once a month and have a conversation about their most recent experience, all your ins and outs, but also their consumer behavior, what's popular in your house right now, where have you gone recently, did you go to dinner lately, blah, blah, blah. We take all that information to help curate a better experience. And in exchange, they get a $5 voucher every month towards anything in the studio. And if you don't participate for 3 months, we take you off the list. So, just as an ongoing, they're going to get
Mm.
$5 to come in and paint, which is a win for me personally. And then
Mhm.
at the end of the year or in the fall, we'll have a little party for them. So all of the people who've helped us in any capacity will get invited to the fun party to get together. So it's a good time.
Yeah, that's really cool. I like incentivizing for stuff like that. It's just smart.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, for me, it's about getting the customers involved with the store and making them really feel like they're a part of building the store in this community. And in theory, that will make them want to come here more, so that we get to stick around.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah. Well, let's kind of jump into the negative part of this, right? So
Mhm.
maybe maybe walk us through like a little bit of role playing almost. Like let's say you get this bad review. What
Mhm.
is the very first thing that you do? Is it
What's the
immediately
process?
respond? Do
Oh,
you say
absolutely not. I was gonna say no. I was gonna say so I'm at my phone or I'm at my laptop and I get a bad review. Usually the very first thing I'm gonna do after I've read it is I will reread it. And at that point, I'm looking for what are they really upset about? And usually they'll tell you, but it's not going to be in a direct way.
Right.
So, are they upset about the price? Are they upset because they felt like they didn't get the customer service they were expecting? Are they upset because they wanted a particular piece? Find out what the root cause of the upset is usually my first goal because that's going to tell me how to respond. Um, Now, with that being said, every now and then I like to type up a response just to get feelings out of the way. Um,
Very smart.
and so I always say do that like in a note form, not on the actual review. Um, but that way you can really like look at your words, get those feelings out of the way, and then figure out what really needs to be said. Um, at convention this last year, I did a class on kind of bad reviews and all of that. And one method that I use is the heat method, which is used by a lot of big companies. I love calling T-Mobile for customer support because they are experts at it. But that's hear, empathize, apologize, and then take action. So the very first thing you need to do is you need to hear what your customer is complaining about.
Yeah. And I think you also have to take yourself out of the situation. Like they're not talking about you. They're
Right.
talking about something else. But I agree that that's very difficult.
Yes.
And so
Because we are our business. So
of
like you're
course.
always going to have that like emotion side to it. So that's why I say give yourself a moment, have that emotion side to yourself,
Mhm.
and then, address the situation.
Yeah. And how long would you say your responses are?
It really varies. Usually I try and keep them pretty short. If they have a lot of specifics, I will try and address those specifics. And then those ones can be a little bit longer.
Yeah. I find
Do you
tone.
talk to
No,
okay.
go ahead,
Do you
please.
talk to your staff before you write these reviews, or do you go ahead and solve the review first and then kind of figure it out with the rest later?
No, if I can, I will absolutely talk to staff first. I just had a negative review pop up, and literally I could tell from their comment like they were just in the store. And
Oh.
so I called the staff and I said, "Hey, tell me about this situation." And I got the deets on it, and then when I went to go respond to it, they actually had pulled their own negative review because they were out of line and someone in their party must have addressed it. So,
Oh, interesting.
so I got really lucky on that one, but yeah, absolutely. I always try and get as much information as possible before I address it online.
Yeah, I
Wow.
get that. And that's the tough part for me is notoriously in person, my face says everything that I'm thinking, and I try really hard to keep that
Yeah.
back. And then whenever I am responding to these online reviews, having all the information, but
Hmm.
their perspective is different, and really having to settle myself down and we're a customer service business. I want to build a relationship with these people. I want them to come back.
Right.
I, as much as I want to defend myself and my team and everybody else and what happened, like
Hmm.
finding that middle ground is really hard, where it's respectful but also like, hey, that was out of pocket.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think again when I'm looking at a review, and because I want to go somewhere, I'm checking out the reviews. I'm looking at how the company has handled the negative review,
Hmm.
and I gotta say, like sometimes when the tone is bad, or they're overly defensive, or
Hmm.
they're like really rude and out of pocket back to the
Hmm.
Right.
commenter, that is so uncomfortable and almost makes me like side with the person that commented.
Right.
So yeah, how do you handle like when your staff is in the wrong? Like when you did make a mistake,
Hmm.
how do you like protect your staff but also say like, yeah, we made a mistake. Or, are you saying we messed up? Sorry, come back in. Like, what does that look like for you?
I was gonna say absolutely. I think it's really important to take accountability for their experience, even if that wasn't a stellar one. Um, and I think what that kind of shows people reading those reviews then is, hey, like, okay, everyone messes up, but they actually are trying to make it right. And hopefully that will then be perceived as, still worth doing business. So,
Um, do you ever
And are
call the
you
customer?
responding to all of the reviews yourself?
I don't respond to all of them. And I think that, I always go back and forth if I should respond to all of them or not. I do go through and try and at least like all of the comments, but I try and save my actual like written responses for either really, really stellar reviews or for those bad. I always will respond to a bad review. So.
Yeah. Jess, do you respond to all your reviews?
Not all of them. I'm kind of in the same boat. The really great ones are the ones that were specific that we can kind of bounce back and forth with, or the
Mm-hmm.
really bad ones. I have
Mhm.
added it to my customer experience coordinator's job to respond to all of the reviews, even if it's just a thank you so much for coming in. We'll see you soon. We'll see if there's any sort of difference
Mhm.
or if that ends up muddling up the conversation, because I do
Right.
think that when I'm the consumer, like I kind of like that too. Like I can see what's in the middle. It's the far ends of the spectrum that I want to see what the
Right.
customers thought and how the business really responded to it as well.
Yeah,
Right.
that makes sense. Maddie, do you ever take a response offline and call the customer?
Oh, totally. And I will invite them, but to contact us. And if I can find their information, I absolutely contact them. One thing that I like to do on my negative reviews in particular is I always start them with, I wish you would have reached out to us so that we could have made this right. And that's how I start it. Because my goal is then any customer who's going and looking at those reviews, before they leave a negative review, maybe they will see that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that might encourage them to reach out to us first before making that review online.
Have you ever gotten a review that didn't belong to you? Like maybe there's a competing pottery shop in town and someone reviewed you instead of them, on it. How, yes and no, how'd you handle that?
Not so much that actually, but we have had reviews where very clearly they are not our customer. For whatever reason, they're just trying to mess with us. We have dealt with that, but not one for another competitor.
I feel like several years ago, and I'm sure it's still happening, but there was a like onset of fake reviews coming
Hmm.
in,
Hmm.
and I'm curious if that's still happening, and if you're seeing a lot of success in reporting that to Google and having them remove it. Like, do they actually remove the reviews?
Um, I've had I've had one or two that have been like fully reviewed or removed. On like Facebook, I mean, you can turn your reviews off, which
Mhm.
is nice. Especially if, you're dealing with a situation where, people in England and, stuff like that, if they're kind of on that bandwagon for some reason. Um, so, I mean, it is possible. It's hard. You have to have a pretty legit reason, and usually that's going to fall in like their community like standard guidelines. So, if there's like threats or something like that, it'll definitely help you.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, it's hard to get them removed, so that's why I just try and address them.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mhm.
With you bring up like the turning off reviews on Facebook because
Mhm.
sometimes people really get they pile on, So
Mhm.
I have noticed in the past, if maybe somebody got a couple really bad reviews, they're coming into Chatter and they're saying, "Hey, can everybody go give my studio a
Mhm.
5-star review?" What are your thoughts on that?
Um, I mean, I sympathize because
Yeah.
obviously, like, this person is dealing with like a lot of emotion and hurt, and they're wanting to try and hide that from view. And so, like, I get it. Like, obviously, especially when we have a great community, we want to rely on our community to help us out and everything. Um, but I think it's just important that you're still addressing it, and hopefully making it right by that customer. But with that being said, it's also okay to fire a customer. And if you need to do that, you need to do that.
Yeah. I agree on the 5-star reviews from buddies and stuff. My suggestion
Mhm.
is just don't do it from your studio account because I think
Yes.
then when your customers start looking at your reviews and it's,
Mhm.
the pottery place and, pottery stop and all these people are coming in being like, this is my favorite activity, it starts to
Yeah.
look a little bit phony. And I think people can really see through that.
Hey again, speaking of new and innovative designs, did you know that Bisque Imports maintains a new item pipeline of over 200 designs? The design team at Bisque Imports meets monthly to discuss trends, review product lines, and get amazing new shapes into production. We've recently started providing you with advance notice when new items are on the way from our factory. Check the Arriving Soon category on our website to view brand new shapes that that are coming soon, as well as existing shapes that will soon be back in stock. You can even click the Notify Me button on the product page to get an email when these items are received. Enjoy!
Are you spending hours managing studio bookings and class registrations? Occasion helps ceramic studios save an average of 3 days a week in admin time. With clever workflows, instant confirmations, and seamless class management, you can focus on what matters, creating amazing experiences for your customers. Join successful studios like Clay Cafe Avalon, who've trusted Occasion since 2016. Visit occasion.app and schedule a demo today. Mention Glazed Over Podcast for personalized setup support.
Have you had to fire a customer lately from any bad experiences in the studio?
Luckily, no. We really have great customers. And like that's the thing is like I think we're so blessed with our line of business because people are coming to us for a fun time. So we have really nice customers. Like, you know, they're not coming here to be crabby. They're coming here to be happy. So that definitely is in our favor. But yeah, it's been actually probably a couple of years since I've had to like really fire a customer.
Mm. Yeah.
So with your reviews, how
Mhm.
is your staff involved? Do you have like a group thread that you post them to, good or bad, when you get them? Do you print them out and put them in the back room? How do you loop
Mhm.
them into the feedback from the customers and then use that going forward?
So usually if it's a negative review, I'm going to talk about it with managers, and then if it is a like specific staff member, um, I will kind of address that with them. Whatever the complaint was, I'm going to kind of be extra vigilant towards, keeping an eye on that situation. Um, but as far as our positive reviews go, usually after a certain point, we have a private Facebook group, and I'll go in and I'll share, hey guys, we've been getting a lot of really nice reviews. Here's what the customers are saying about you. And I'll share them in our Facebook group.
That's
I love that.
nice.
Yeah.
I love when companies, especially small businesses, post their positive reviews. I mean, because at the
Mhm.
end of the day, it's a testimonial. So
Right.
I do urge a lot of our industry to go in these Google reviews and grab the most recent positive one, drop it in
Mhm.
Canva with like a fun, colorful background, and post it on your Facebook and Instagram. That's like an
Yeah.
Especially if you
easy.
haven't posted in a while. Like this is some easy
Exactly.
content. It'll pull
Yep.
people
Right.
in.
Yep.
We
And
haven't
that's
posted because we're
proof.
so busy having fun.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No, that's a really
Yeah.
good idea. I'm getting ready to redo our website. And so
Oh,
I'm all
nice.
like, oh, that would be a really cute little piece to add.
Yeah, I think so much of the internet and being on the internet is proving yourself and proving that people come in and proving
Mhm.
that like you are successful. And I think we do that by showing that the studio is busy
Mhm.
and posting these positive reviews. So
Yeah.
that's my social media tip of the day. Um, yeah, so you mentioned this class at convention.
Mhm.
What was the questions? What questions did you get asked within your class? Like, what's everybody really wanting to know around this topic within the industry?
Um, I think there's a lot of like that emotional element to it and how to kind of keep that in check. Um, there was a lot of questions that were kind of associated with that. Um, and then I think like the other one was just like the one-off like really crazy reviews that you get, like how do you address those? Um, and especially if you feel they are not true. So with those, I encourage you to try and provide proof. If it's someone you feel like you want to keep, try and provide proof on how that's not your policy or, something like that. Um, and then provide like an option on how to make that right. Otherwise, if you can tell like this is not a legit review, um, saying, for lack of a better word, you like want to discredit it a little bit to everyone else reading it. Saying things like, "Hey, I don't have you in my customer database. Can you give me a call so we can discuss this?" And sometimes not engaging with those is sometimes a more powerful approach.
Yeah, I not to go off on a little bit of a tangent, but I recently, when I got my hair done, they were like, "Hey, can you leave us a review? It'd be really special." They were
Mhm.
really hounding me about leaving a review. And so I thought,
Right.
"Oh, they must have like gotten some really bad reviews lately." So of course,
Mhm.
I'm in there and I'm looking because I'm nosy. And there was one that's really similar to what you're saying where
Mhm.
it's clear to me that they got confused about the salon and they just maybe it was a similar
Mhm.
name or whatever, and they say, you know, you cut my ear with the scissors and I'm bleeding everywhere and no one offered to pay for my medical bills, and it was a really outrageous negative review. But the
Right.
salon's response was even more outrageous. It was, I checked the security cameras and you weren't there and we don't have a customer like you,
Mhm.
and I would gladly pay for your bills if you know, prove that you were there. And you
Right.
know, like I was saying earlier, that looks crazy. And
Mhm.
the maybe the response is, "Hey, we actually don't see you in our database. Like, please give us a call so we can figure out what happened here because
Yep.
we think maybe you didn't show or whatever it is." But yeah, I think really the heart of it is trying to remove the feelings
Yeah.
from this.
Well, and anytime you can take it offline, one, I think you're going to get a more genuine conversation with the customer, but usually that alone is going to de-escalate it. I think being behind the keyboard gives people a certain confidence that
Mhm.
they're not always going to kind of continue in person. Um, and that, it's easier to kind of elaborate and exaggerate online than it is, to someone's face.
Yeah, when you do take the calls offline, or when you take the review offline and call, is what I'm trying to say.
Hmm.
Do you ever come back and say, you know, because again, you're trying to prove to everybody else, like, oh, we had a nice conversation, like, thanks for the offline conversation. Do you ever do anything like that? And do you see any benefit from doing that?
I was gonna say I haven't had to do that. I have had a couple of times where they left a less than stellar review, and then we had that conversation, and they've gone in and they've changed it. Um,
That's nice.
so, and that I'll take any day of the week. But, um, yeah, I haven't really. Usually, if they've engaged with further conversation, they end up changing their review.
Mm.
Otherwise, it just kind of gets left at my response with usually an invite to call me. Because usually if I can, I will call them. Otherwise, I give them the invite to contact me and then it's up to them. And, most of the time after they've gotten their upset out online, they're not really interested in following up.
Mm, makes sense. Have you ever used ChatGPT to help formulate these responses?
Totally. Absolutely. I was gonna say it's a great tool for helping you remove your emotion side to it. Um, I think it's just really important that you're not just doing a direct copy paste though.
Mm.
Um, go in there and take that vibe but make it your own flavor because I'm very adamant that we all kind of have our own way of speaking. And so all of a sudden, if you sound like AI, it's not going to be very genuine.
Yeah. Do you write a certain prompt before you paste that bad review in? You know, are you saying any certain words to ChatGPT to get a better, more you response?
Um, I mean, yes and no. There is like a way to go in and kind of train Chat
Mhm.
GPT on how you talk, so to speak. But usually I'm gonna just give it prompts like, hey, this is our task. We're responding to a negative review. I will usually tell them, Chat GPT,
I
what
call him
I
Chad sometimes.
correct. I was gonna say mine's called Amy, so
Oh,
Gotta be nice to the
AIMIE.
AI.
So
yeah,
yeah, so when they're taking over the world, I want to be on their good list. So please and
absolutely.
thank yous, give it a name.
Hmm.
Um, so I will say, hey, we're responding to a negative review. Um, this is the potential outcome that I would like to happen. Here's the details. And sometimes that'll just be me directly copying, pasting. Um, the review into it. Sometimes I'll just be like, they didn't feel like they were checked on, while they were creating or something, whatever it is. Um, let it kind of come up with a response, and then I'm going to look it over, change some things. Like I like calling people friends. Um, hey friend, I'm sorry, your experience was less than stellar. That's how I would say it, where she might say, hey, like we apologize that your experience didn't live up to your standards. And I'm like, okay, that's nice, but that's not what I would say. So you have to make it your flavor, but it's absolutely a great tool to help you get started.
Yeah, I think you're so right about going in and editing. I get really frustrated when I'm on someone's website or,
Mhm.
in their social media or something and it's so clearly they just copied and pasted the Chat GPT
Right.
thing because you can tell. And I think we're
Yeah.
getting better and better at telling when someone
Mhm.
hasn't put any effort in to edit to make it more of the brand voice. And
Right.
yeah, I know I'm big about being like, okay, can you respond to this, with a friendly tone and make it short and,
Mhm.
don't use any emojis and take out these dashes and
Yep.
that has helped me. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I just know that I want to feel like my input's being heard. So definitely when it's all the copy paste from AI, it's like, oh, is that an
Mhm.
employee of yours? Just does AI all day, and no one really
Right.
cares what these experiences were like. So I think that's kind of the critical piece is taking that and
Mhm.
then adding your tone to it, like you say.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, do you have any other maybe like your big takeaway? If there's one thing you want to leave
Yeah.
people with when it
Number
comes
one
to
tip.
dealing with these negative reviews, what is it?
I would say you have to face it. Ignoring it isn't going to make it go away. And sometimes it can only make it worse because then all of your future customers, or even current customers, they're going to see that and then kind of think twice about you and your business. So even though it's hard, uh, address it, even if it's just to say, hey, I apologize, that was your experience. Because it's going to say you're at least being mindful, um, and that you're engaged. So don't ignore it.
Absolutely.
Speaking of being mindful and engaged, have you ever like do you keep these and maybe your response or like the internal what happened, what the
Mhm.
solution was for down the road? And just trying to give our listeners at home some ideas of how to use their reviews to propel their business forward.
Um, I was gonna say, like, we do talk about them as like follow up. We occasionally will talk about them like during staff training. Um, but I mean, the good news is we don't get a ton of bad reviews, so we try not to dwell on
Mhm.
those a whole lot. We just put a lot of emphasis on our good reviews with our staff and stuff.
Well, and same with that. I mean, do you ever
Mhm.
feel like that helps you highlight what you're great at within those good reviews, or you can kind of
Mhm.
pinpoint these are the things my people are actually really good at?
Right. I mean, if they're yeah, sometimes it's just the generic like the staff is great. And so I'm like, hey you guys, you're great, but yeah, I don't know.
Cool.
I really love the heat thing. I'm going to be thinking about that for quite some time. And remind
Yeah.
me, yeah, tell me what
Here,
it stands for again.
yeah. So heat is hear, empathize, apologize, and take action.
I mean,
And
I'm
so,
going to,
like, anytime, like, I am, like, especially, like, on the phone or something, before I even talk to them, I will write out heat in front of me just as, like, a visual reminder of, like, don't let your emotions get in here. Like, this is our plan, stick to the plan. Um, there's another, like, variation of that, which I personally like better, but he is more well known, I guess. And that's learn. So
hmm,
it's listen, empathize, apologize, respond. So that's exactly the same as heat. But then the end is never make excuses
mm,
because the second you make it an excuse, it's going to negate everything else on that path. So,
yeah, that's so true. I'm thinking about like even arguments I have with my girlfriend. I'm
oh,
like,
totally.
I'm really trying to not say like But, and I think that goes with customer. I mean, isn't like a relationship customer service anyway?
Yep.
But yeah, I think that's such a good tip. Do you read any books or listen to any podcasts or and consume any media that helps you with this?
I was gonna say, not so much. I am like super into Blinkist right now. I don't know
What's
if you
that?
guys, it's an app and it's kind of like Cliff Note versions of books. And so like books are turned into like 12 to 20-minute little like reads, and it kind of gives you like the main points of the book. And they call them blinks. So like the first blink is like these couple of chapters and stuff. Um, but it allows me to kind of get a taste. And then if I find something super interesting, then I'm like, ooh, I might actually really want to read that one. So
That's
Blinkist has been my current fave.
That's a great tip. I do unfortunately think most business books could just be like 3 episodes of a podcast.
Yep.
Yeah.
But of course, authors have to be paid, so no one
Right.
cancel me. But yeah, that's a really helpful tool, and especially just to get the taste of it and see if you want to dive in because
Yep.
our time's limited.
Yeah. And I was like, between my two stores, it's about 20-30 minutes. And so usually I can kind of get a book out of the way during that drive.
Nice. Jess, you've talked about like you consume a lot of business books. Or do you have any recommendations under this topic?
Uh, yeah, I mean, Unreasonable Hospitality
Hmm.
would be one. There's a Disney book about curating the customer experience called Be Our Guest. That's a
Hmm.
really good one. I'm actually currently reading one about AI and integrating those things into the customer service world. It's called The Future is Faster Than You Think. And it's basically if you don't know how to use AI, somebody else will, and they'll do it better than you. So get with it. So I do think that there's some resources on both the customer service topic as well as integrating the AI in, because even beyond the social media part of it, there's a lot of you can help AI teach you how to train people easier, and come up
Right.
with the words for your handbook and all of that stuff for your customer paint spiel. So definitely look
Hmm.
into that if you're not already.
Yeah, that's a great tip. I'm reading a really good business book right now about a con woman going to a small farm to expel it from a ghost, but then she falls in love with
Oh,
the farmer. And by
that's amazing.
business book, I just mean romance book called Happy Medium.
That's
So
awesome.
also really suggest that one. Well, Maddie, I learned so much from you today. And I think, you continue to be so generous with your time, especially
Mhm.
here to meet with us, but also on Chatter. So I'm thankful for you. I learned so much just from like lurking in in the
Oh,
comments.
well,
So
thank you. I mean, I've gotten a lot from the CCSA, so anytime I can give back, I definitely want to.
Okay, so real quick, just like anything to say on the legal side of things.
So, for the legal, first, I will say I am not trained to give legal advice.
Maddie is not a lawyer, y'all.
I am not. I
not
am not.
yet.
Yeah.
So there have been a couple of instances where I have had to seek legal advice where I'm just like, hey, this seems like a lot more than what I'm comfortable dealing with, and get input from my attorney. And once I actually had to contact the attorney general. Um, During COVID, as everyone is probably still kind of healing from, there was a lot of emotions going around about certain policies that businesses may have chose to implement within their business. Um, and we had a situation where a group of people found out that we were asking people to wear masks, and we're not very happy about that, and claiming a whole bunch of ADA stuff, um, and saying it was unconstitutional and stuff. And then for that, we did have to go to our attorney for advice on how to handle that.
Yeah. And can you share just an overview of how they told you to handle it?
Yeah. So, like with the ADA stuff, we, our attorney just encouraged us to say, hey, if you need special accommodations that we might not be able to implement immediately, we're more than welcome to set up an additional time for you, so that we can better accommodate you in the future, was kind of like his suggestion to us. And then we did reach out to the Attorney General and in his office to get clarification. And they more or less said, you're a private entity business. You can make your own rules in that regard. So, and I was going to say, this was like super early COVID before we had any idea of what it was. And we were just nervous having like a whole bunch of children in. But in addition to that, my mom was dealing with lung cancer at the time. So we had a whole nother set of worries associated with if this was respiratory and stuff. So we always say we would much rather err on the side of caution. And so that kind of led us to that decision. Unfortunately, there was a group of people who weren't even our customers who found out about that and decided to take it to our reviews and the like. And that was the worst.
Yeah, that's tough.
So I mean, there are tools and people to help you navigate those things. You don't have to do them alone. But if you even remotely feel like it could potentially be legal, I would be contacting your attorney.
Yeah,
That's
for
smart.
sure.
Yeah, thank you for speaking on that, because we obviously don't want to sit here
Right.
and say we know what we're talking about. But having that
Yeah.
But there's a
experience
bad
is-
review, and then there's defamation and other
Yes.
things that are going to be more detrimental to your
Well,
business.
and you don't want to respond and potentially be creating some type of like something that could maybe be used against you, whether you meant
Yeah.
well or
Totally.
not, So, yeah, that's where I'm just like, hey, get advice before you address those, if you need to.
Feel like a juggler at your ceramic studio? Between classes, bookings, and admin tasks, those pins keep flying. Let Occasion help you put down the act and get back to creating. Visit occasion.act to discover your peace of mind.
We hope you enjoyed the show, everyone. Give your customers incentive to return often by bringing in fresh new shapes. View Bisque Import's latest and greatest shapes on our website and hit the Notify Me button to be first in line to order when they arrive. If you've got ideas for new shapes, feel free to send them in to marketing@bisqueimports.com.
Running a fine art studio is a full-time job, and finding time to plan your marketing can feel overwhelming. That's where the Contemporary Ceramic Studios Association comes in. As a CCSA member, you'll have access to a treasure trove of marketing resources, from customizable marketing graphics to monthly social media calendars and content ideas. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Focus on your business while we help you promote your studio with tools that save you time and attract more customers. Join today and take your marketing to the next level. Visit www.ccsaonline.com for more info.
Well, any parting words?
I don't know.
it's
Make art
pressure,
and be happy, I guess.
Awesome.
So,
Hey,
If we want to find you somewhere, where should our people look for you?
probably Facebook is the best. I was gonna say I'm working on my LinkedIn. I finally am like, okay, we gotta do that.
I
So,
know.
so yeah, probably Facebook would be the best.
Nice.
Awesome.
And you're at Glazed Expressions, right? That's where
That
the
is
business
correct.
Facebook is. Awesome.
Yep, Glazed Expressions. We've got our main page, and then we've got sub pages for each location, both in Clive and Ankeny.
Awesome. And we'll see you at convention this year, of course.
Possibly.
Oh,
I was gonna say we
This
we
new
have-
thing might
I was
juggle her away from
yeah,
us.
we have to look at it. We've got a lot kind of going on at that time. So
okay. Well, we hope to see you at convention.
I always hope to be there.
Glazed Over is brought to you by the CCSA, the Contemporary Ceramic Studios Association. Thank you to our moderators, Amy Williams and Jessica Cowan. Editing by Scott Lester. Executive production by Vicki DeWorth. Learn more at ccsaonline.com.